Hey everyone, in this video I'll show you 26 easy tips on how to get more battery life out of your Android phone. This battery saving noob guide is an update over our previous video for the latest Android Lollipop update. First I'll go over the basic tips for those Android noobs that don't know them yet. First being the power saver mode. This tip may be pretty obvious, but the Android Lollipop update introduced a built-in power saver mode, and you can access it with the scroll down menu. Over here there's a button for power saving. Turn that on and off to start saving battery that way. Now the second tip is to reduce your screen brightness. Now that phones have much bigger displays, they use up a lot more juice and are usually the biggest battery drain. Just go to your screen settings in the menu, or display settings. Down here you can change the brightness, and also remember to adjust your screen timeout so that your screen turns off faster when you're not using your phone. And you can also just change the brightness really quickly with the little bar in the scroll down menu here. Next, the wireless services on your phone use up quite a bit of power, so turn them off when you don't need them. This includes Wi-Fi, mobile data, Bluetooth, NFC, and location services. Turning them off can save you a ton of battery life. And it's pretty simple to turn them on and off. In the scroll down menu, you see these buttons here to turn on and off Bluetooth and the mobile data right here. When you're not using them, you can turn them off. So if you're not near a Wi-Fi source, turn that off. If you're using Wi-Fi, turn your mobile data off. You can automate this process with the IFTTT app, which I'll get to in a bit. Next, close your background apps. You can do this by holding the home button, which brings up a card-like menu with all the running apps, which if you're not using them, it's best to just close them. Now, the way RAM works in Android optimizes background running apps, so you don't need to close apps constantly. But you should close apps that you don't plan on using for a while. The camera app, for example, or a game you are playing. Next tip is to turn off haptic feedback, which you can do in the settings. Just open up the sound and notification settings and find vibration intensity and turn down haptic feedback. It takes power to physically run those motors, so unless you have an incredible fondness for the feedback on every screen touch, you can turn that off. Next, you'll want to uninstall or disable apps, which you can do in the application settings. Look over it more and find the application manager, and this will show all of the apps downloaded on your phone and all the apps running and just all in general. Apps on your phone take up space and run background processes, both eating up battery life. Now go through the application manager and delete those apps that you aren't using anymore. You can also disable apps that were pre-installed on your phone, like the Amazon Kindle app. You can push the disable button so that it stops running, and uninstall the updates. Now you'll need root access to completely delete it. Now just be careful when disabling apps and make sure you don't disable something that Android requires to run smoothly. The next tip is to restart your phone frequently. Just hold the power button and you should get a menu and just push restart. If you notice your phone is running slower than usual, a restart usually fixes this. And every time you install or uninstall an app, a restart is recommended. Next tip is to not overload your home screen with widgets. These widgets that stay on your home screen are constantly running and syncing with the network. Having a bunch of them on your home screens will use up battery life and slow down your phone. Next tip is to not use animated wallpaper. Animations use up processing power, draining battery life. I know those animated wallpapers are pretty, but you shouldn't use them if you want to get the most out of your phone's performance. Also, if you are using an AMOLED screen found on Samsung Galaxy phones, it's recommended to use a dark background. AMOLED screens will use a lot less energy on darker images. The blacker the better. For the next tip, you can reduce or turn off autosync, which automatically syncs your apps to update the latest information, like the Facebook wall emails or other info. Every time the sync runs, it connects to the network and uses up battery life. Now you can turn it off easily in the drop-down menu with the sync button right here. And you can also reduce how often apps do this right in their application settings. Like in Gmail or Facebook, you can set it to sync every few hours instead of every 15 minutes. Or you could just turn sync off and have it sync every time you manually open the app. Now the next tip is to use airplane mode, which is over right here. Now staying connected to the network uses battery life, especially if the signal is weak. So if you're in a building or in the middle of nowhere with a weak signal, airplane mode will save you a ton of battery life. Now this will turn off all your wireless radios, including your ability to make calls. So if you're in a situation where you're not going to be using your phone anyways, you might as well turn on airplane mode. At work, for example, I go through periods of an hour and 20 minutes where I can't touch my phone, so I turn airplane mode on between breaks. Next, keep your apps updated. Be sure to always update your apps and check them frequently to take all the apps if they're available. You can do that by opening the Play Store and just click this and then open My Apps. And it'll show you all the apps you've downloaded from the Play Store, and you just click Update All. And as you can see, I have 4 here that need updated. You can do the same thing in the Amazon App Store and other app stores. Keeping the apps updated usually helps increase efficiency and saves battery life. Well, those are the basic tips. I'll move on to a few slightly more complex ones, like checking for apps that use more battery life than they should. Now you can do this by going into the settings, open up the battery settings under More. Here it'll show you your charge percentage and how soon your phone predicts your phone will last. And under that you'll see all the apps that are using a battery. Now, just like on my phone, the screen is usually the #1 battery killer, but you'll also see other apps that are using up battery. You should delete apps that are using more battery than they should be, or you can go into the application's options and adjust the process and sync settings. Now for another step, you can uninstall and reinstall apps. If there's an app that has battery issues, but you don't want to delete it, you can try uninstalling it and reinstalling it, and that sometimes fixes the situation. Now the multiple user feature is definitely useful, but it's taxing. If you're not really going to be using an extra profile, it's better to just delete it. And wiping the cache partition can improve your phone's performance. This won't delete any personal information, it just cleans up temporary files stored by your Android's operating system. Now, wiping the cache partition is done differently on different phones, but it's usually easy to find guides for this, and I'll have a video for it pretty soon. Next, you can adjust your location settings. If you don't want to just turn the GPS off here, you can open up the location settings and adjust it. Under the More tab, you can find location there and adjust the mode here. Now, high accuracy uses up a lot more battery life than the power saving mode, or you could just set it to GPS only. And you can also set the Google location history to off, and that'll save some battery life as well. Next, you can restrict app background data. Over under connections and data usage, you can see how much data you've used so far and how much each app has used. Now you can open up some apps and set them to restricted so that they only run on Wi-Fi and don't use up the data. Next, you can turn off unwanted notifications. Now when your Android notification pops up, it will wake your phone up from sleep along with playing a sound tone and turning the screen on. The more this occurs, the more battery life gets sucked out. Notifications from most apps are also annoying and unwanted, so just go to your notification settings and open up sound and notification and find application notifications in the menu. Now all of these applications have the privilege of sending notifications to my phone. To change this, just open up an app and set it to block. So it'll block all notifications from this application. You can do that on all apps that are giving you problems. Now, the next tip is to be careful with task killer apps. Task killers were once useful a long time ago in the ancient Android days. Now the Android random access memory is optimized so that operations stay quick and smooth. Android will keep the RAM full with apps that are frequently needed. The problem with task killers is they remove background apps from the RAM, and Android will just fill that RAM space back up. The constant removing and reopening of apps will cause energy to flow out of your battery. The next tip is to download an app called Greenify. Now, Greenify is an excellent app that will hibernate apps that run in the background. Though the full feature set of Greenify requires root access to the phone, it still does a great job on phones that aren't rooted. I'll have a video soon explaining more about the Greenify app. Next is an app called IFTTT, short for If This Then That. Now this is a must-have app that automates a large variety of tasks. For example, it can be set to automatically turn Wi-Fi off when you leave the home or office. You can also have mobile data turned off when you are connected to a Wi-Fi source. There are a lot of other tasks it can do, and you can check out the video below to find out more information on that. The next tip is something no one ever wants to do, but if your Android is being really sluggish and acting like a prehistoric computer from the 90s, you may want to perform a factory reset. This will fully reset the Android back to the way it was when you first bought it, and you can do that by going to the settings, under accounts, at the bottom, backup and reset, and you'll see the factory setting, or factory data reset, right here. This will delete everything on your phone, so don't forget to back up your pictures, music, and other files to a cloud or your PC, and make sure your apps and contact list are backed up in the Google profile. If you want to be sure you got everything backed up, you can download an app called My Backup. But those are the main battery saving tips. Now I'll just throw in a few more quick tips out there for you to keep in mind. Now you should always try to keep a good signal on your phone when you can. The harder the phone has to work to keep a signal, the faster the battery dies. Keep the phone next to a window if there's one around, or keep it on the desk instead of inside your pocket. And also, don't let your phone run hot. The hotter the battery gets, the faster it drains. If you notice your phone getting warm, you should give it a break. And playing 3D games on your phone while it's connected to the charger is an excellent way to send your phone's battery to an early grave. Well, that's all the battery saving tips for this video. Hopefully you can get through your day with plenty of battery left. If you found this Android Noob Guide video helpful, please rate it, and nice comments are always welcome. Also, if you have any of your own tips for saving battery life on an Android phone, leave them in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to Android Noobs channel for upcoming Android guides and videos. Thanks everyone, and I'll talk to you again soon.